The Mung were once nomadic farmers, but now live in isolation in the mountains of northern Vietnam near the borders with China and Laos. They're an indigenous community of 10 million, whose language and culture have remained unchanged for centuries.
I'm not a very good singer. We sing this song when we begin planting new crops. After the Lunar New Year, it's about the joy we feel at that moment.
But moments of joy are rare these days. Climate change is making droughts longer and damaging rice paddies. Phong Thi has worked in these fields since she was a child. Now 27, she barely recognizes them.
Before, there used to be water here, but now there's none. To grow rice, we have to wait for the rain. Only then can we start planting.
Like many families in her village, Phong Thi has had to abandon rice growing because the paddies require constant flooding.
Now, I only grow taro because they grow better and adapt more easily to the warming climate.
Taro root is becoming a substitute for rice because it can adapt to water shortages. Taro is being grown in this village for the second year in a row. But the villagers aren't celebrating. Phong Thi's 60-year-old mother is worried about the future.
Climate change worries me because if we run out of water, I'm afraid my children and grandchildren will go hungry, since we depend entirely on farming. Without water, we can no longer survive here.
Phong Thi and her 3 children live in this traditional house, located about 1,000 meters above sea level. Like her mother, she fears for her family's future.
If the climate keeps changing and there's no more water for farming, then I'll do what others have done and move down to the city to work in factories.
People across the region are seeing increasingly erratic seasons, mild winters, droughts, and torrential rain at the wrong time of the year. 2025 was the hottest year here for 60 years. To prevent a rural exodus, NGOs are helping Hmong families adapt to climate disruption and improve water management.
Have you looked at this notebook yet? You'll need to write down how many kilos you harvested, how many bags. Everything has to be recorded.
But the challenge is not only agricultural. In these remote, conservative villages, many are suspicious of change.
Because the Hmong barely speak Vietnamese, we have to translate all our advice and guidelines into images, otherwise they won't understand. The information can't be too technical if we want them to successfully implement those projects.
According to one study, nearly 40% of farmers in this northern Vietnamese province have switched from rice to other crops. The NGO CARE is encouraging the move using data compiled at its offices in Hanoi.
Among the climate factors we monitor, the first is the number of sunlight hours, then the average air temperature. We also look at the amount of water evaporating, which can be observed directly in the field, as well as air humidity.
These indicators help anticipate which crops will survive in the years ahead.
Before proposing an alternative crop, we study whether it matches the soil and climate and whether there's a market to sell it to. Based on our analysis, taro, peanuts and squash are the most suitable crops. These are plants that can survive at this altitude, require little water and cope well with major temperature fluctuations.
840 families have joined the crop conservation project since it was launched in 2023. The goal is to lift Hmong communities out of poverty, and it's having some early success.
With this squash harvest, we should earn around 1,200 euros. Before, on the same land, we barely made 500 euros growing rice.
But challenges lie ahead. The Mung will have to endure predicted temperature rises of as much as 3.4 centigrade across Vietnam by the end of the century. The climate emergency is not only threatening crops on these ancestral lands, but an entire way of life.